Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to introduce you to Becca, who is a special education teacher who has just, quite honestly, taken things next level. Special education has been through so much trauma over the past, 18 months. It has truly fallen apart. She's been in the middle of it. She is part of the solution, helping things get back together and get back on track. So, Becca, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Catherine.
So we met because you decided to become a master IEP coach. But before we talk about becoming a master IEP coach, share with me, how did you get to an IEP table in the very beginning? What brought you there?
So I am a special needs sibling. In addition, I am a special education teacher. So I have been around the IEP table for longer than I'd like to admit. But I am a therapeutic day school teacher, which is where my seat currently is at an IEP table, besides the master IEP coach.
I love that. So that's where I think you and I kind of connected when you were in the mentorship and we were talking, you're like a special needs sibling. I'm like, check, I got that. Teacher, check, got that. Therapeutic day school. I did not specifically teach in a therapeutic day school, but I was a self-contained classroom teacher, and my brother went to a therapeutic day school. So I understand the importance of that from a family perspective. I also have some pretty strong views on therapeutic day schools, self-contained classrooms, and that they do have a place at times in our continuum of placements. So can you just share a little bit about, we've talked about this inside of the mentorship, about what parents or teachers may need to hear about a therapeutic day school, about like what really happens there? Is it really lowering expectations, or is it a different type of environment? What is it? Can you just share?
Yeah, so I think actually there's probably a little bit more expectations. They're spelled out very explicitly. So in many cases, it's just about, specializing the services a little bit more and creating an environment which can promote that independence. There's not always the ability in a general education school to, make sure that there's not a way for a child to leave the building, or to make sure that the program is designed specifically to build independence and life skills. And that's often what we do at a therapeutic day school, is build those life skills and prepare them for not only the employment and future education, but also in hopes to return them back to a general education environment. So I think that's a pretty big misconception there, is that it's a end of the road kind of place, when in reality, it's in my eyes, it's often the beginning of a really awesome journey that can end back in a general education setting.
Absolutely. I love that. It's important for us to clarify. Let's clarify. We're talking some special education jargon here. And I want people who hear things like life skills, I want them to know that you're not teaching life skills in a way of, okay, so 1980s version of special education is life skills of, we go learn how to make a bed and bake a Betty Crocker cake. Like, that's not what you're talking about when you talk about life skills. So I love, this is why I love the Master IEP Coach community, because we get to bring so many different perspectives to this. So what do you mean by life skills?
So being able to understand a map or your GPS, understanding where to look for information, how to use Google, really more practical things. Also safety things. A lot of students who I work with don't have the safety skills to understand what some of the signs mean, or those, daily interactions with safety, emergency personnel. And so those are a lot of the life skills that I do, but that can also mean hygiene and taking care of yourself, and, even self-care, understanding what, mental health can look like. And so those life skills is very encompassing, really anything that we can use in our daily life to function.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, so my brother, his story is that, the public school had basically given up on him. He's never going to read. He's never going to write. He's never going to do math. And for those of you that don't know, my brother currently, he has 43 with Down syndrome. So he's actually the first generation of fully educated adults with disabilities. And that's, how kind of new special education is. We all think of this as like, this special education has been around forever. It really hasn't. And it wasn't until he got to a therapeutic day school where somebody paid attention to him at a whole nother level that they were like, oh my gosh, he's obsessed with sports. We're going to teach him how to read the sports page. Now that's considered like a life skill, but it catapulted him into being a reader. So he's not a great reader. He's not, proficient at a level that, maybe we hoped that he would be. Maybe, he doesn't have that skill. But you know what? It took this specialized environment to tap into who he is and what he could do. Instead of giving up altogether, he's not going to read a chapter book. But gosh darn it, just like every other dude who's, 43, who's scrolling the sports app, he's going to tell you who's getting traded, who's on what's team. And that stuff is important.
It really is. It's important for social skills, for jobs, for for life, having a meaningful life. Really, even some of those those educational skills that we may think are extremely necessary aren't dire. Like, I know that we've talked about coins all the time and how people think that might be a functional life skill, but it's not. Like, using your credit card is much more of a functional life skill. And so it's that we can go down a rabbit hole on that one.
We could go down that road. But I think, that what sums it up is priorities. You get the flexibility in your environment to set truly individualized priorities. And I think a lot of times when we talk about least restrictive environment, and we're talking about, there's general education with no supports, and then there's a residential school, and kind of like right above that, on the scale, they would say is a therapeutic day school. What I think is really interesting is that, like, my brother had much less independence in the public school. Now, to everybody who's listening, I'm not saying that things shouldn't change. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have the support in public school, that we just gave up easy. Believe me, my mama did not give up easy, okay? And so, yes, are there things that should have been done different? Absolutely. Are we grateful that there's a continuum so he could do things like navigate an entire campus by himself without an adult attached to him? That was less restrictive. So can you just speak to that a little bit about some of the things, like maybe that you've seen, some of your students come in that had one-on-ones in a public school, and then they come to your school and they're building their independence. Can you share what that looks like?
Yeah. So actually I'm working through that right now. And I had a student that had a one-to-one, and there was constant eloping in the general education classroom. And in that school, there weren't, locks on the doors that were magnetized so that a student couldn't open and close at their leisure, and they could just run out into the street. And there was a really busy street right outside. And so there had to be actually several staff members with that student to make sure that if they were running, that they weren't getting outside. Now, my environment, my school, we have mag locks on the door. Unless you enter a code or you push for more than, I think it's like 15 or 30 seconds, the doors won't open. So that student had the opportunity to, learn, like, oh, okay, like that door's not going to open. I can just walk to my locker. And that was a skill he never had before, was to get off the bus and go to his locker. And within, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, he was able to do that. And that's a really big skill, to be able to walk from your bus to your locker independently. And in a general education school, you may not be able to do that. There's a lot of people around. It's too much sensory input, not enough being able to even instruct on that skill, because I've got maybe 30 kids in a classroom instead of 10, and so I can't have myself in the hallway for 20 minutes teaching how to walk to a locker. But in this setting, I can. And already we've been able to decrease support and prompting so that hopefully in, the matter of months, that student will be more independent and be able to really navigate more independently, and then be able to generalize that to the community and to home. And, and really that's what we want. We want that generalization and that future to be more independent.
All right. So are you ready to tackle a hot topic that's going to make some people mad?
I am.
Let's do it. Let's talk about this concept of inclusion, and how when people think inclusion, they think something like a therapeutic day school is the exact opposite of inclusion, and that it's kind of like, how dare, like there's going to be people that hear this concept and they're just going to turn us off. And that's okay. That's all right. They're not ready for the conversation yet. Okay, that's fine. For those that are listening and that are going to hear, the conception is that if you have a therapeutic day school placement, you have given up inclusion. Like, it just doesn't happen. So can you define for me, or just kind of have this conversation from your perspective of like, what is inclusion and how are you supporting inclusion?
So in my eyes, inclusion is being a part of what's going on, regardless of what it is. If it's a whole group lesson, a gym class, a music class, a social interaction, whatever it is, you are included, you are a part of it, and you are active. So inclusion is often seen as like, oh, going to gym class with your general education peers, and it's that general education. But in reality, in my mind, inclusion is being a part of it. So in my classroom, students aren't separated to, we have to keep the student here to make sure that they're able to access all, what we've created for them. I use universal design for learning. So everything is created to support everyone that is there. And then there's also opportunities for them to interact with general education peers. We have students that work in the community. We go on community outings. We have students that participate in social activities through park districts. And these are things that, at least my IEP team helps us find so that the students can be included properly. And we also help support the parents in understanding, what's in their community that can be a part, and how they can be a part of it with their IEP as it is, and also still be included in the assemblies that we have, where we design everything to be specifically for students with disabilities and to fit our students' needs. And we may not be able to always have everything 100% inclusive. Some students need time by themselves. Some students need to be able to work on an assignment independently. And those are also skills that they need to develop. But those bigger picture items, and more often than not, inclusion can just be being a part of that activity. And quite frankly, a general education gym, in my perspective, is not my favorite place for inclusion.
No, I'm going to be bold and just call out our school system and that concept of inclusion. Of school is the only time. So I want everybody to listen to this real hard here. School is the only time that we are plopped in a room with 20 to 30 other people of our same age, where we're expected to do the same thing. Like, that's not how my life works as an adult. Is that how your life works as an adult?
Nope.
No, our lives do not work with, I'm going to go hang out with 20 other, for me, it would be 40 some year olds. I'm not going to go hang out with 20 or 30. No, I have all different ages that I hang out with. I have all different ability levels that I hang out with. I have all different environments that I hang out with. I have all different things that I need to know how to navigate, not just follow the rules with 20 other people that I'm supposed to be like. So this whole concept of inclusion, again, I am for inclusion on the broader definition of it's somebody being included for who they are, for where they're at, for what they're doing. It's not about you're labeled as a disability and I'm labeled as an able person. And so if we hang out, now we're including. Like, to me, I just can't get on board with that definition. So tell me, what are you planning to do as a master IEP coach? So you're a teacher who, I don't know, scrolling through social media or something and found me, and you end up joining the master IEP coach mentorship. And you're continuing on this path as a master IEP coach. So why did you join, and what are you hoping to do to make an impact as a master IEP coach?
So I joined to kind of take my career to the next level. I love the therapeutic day school setting, but I have a young daughter, and I don't necessarily know that I don't want to enhance my career. And the thing is, as a teacher, you kind of have teacher and then principal. And I knew I did not want principal. That is a very special person who can do that job. I am not that person. So I knew that I needed to find other things to do to make myself grow. And I really felt like when I saw what was going on with the Master IEP coaches, and actually I started following a bunch on Instagram and seeing like, wow, like I like what they're doing. I like what they're saying. And I decided to join, and it was by far the best thing that I could have done for myself. I considered it my self-care time because I got to sit and learn about something that I love and enjoy. And then I also got to, create a platform where I get to share things with families. So as a Master IEP coach, I coach more on the family side, where I work more with, helping to apply the IEP within the home. So things like accommodations, they can be used everywhere, and they don't need to just be used in the classroom. So I have helped families explore putting visuals in their home to make their home more accessible, or, those wiggle seats and things like that at the dinner table, just to make life a little easier at home and make those generalization of these skills. So that's kind of how I've been using it currently. I've also been, coaching some families through the process of going into a therapeutic setting or out of a therapeutic setting, so that they feel like they're supported and that they know the questions to ask when they're touring the schools and see, because, behind the scenes, I know what I would ask when I would want to tour schools. So, why not pass along those, really key questions to those families.
I love that so much. I love that you're really looking at this perspective of meeting a family where they're at. How do we implement this IEP both at school and at home? How do we transition into a different placement? How do we transition out of a placement? Because special education is a very fluid type process. It shouldn't feel like we're stuck. It shouldn't feel like we're making a decision for a lifetime when we're making a decision for what we need right now. So I love that you're supporting teams and parents through this process. Well, Becca, I think that you just gave some really great thinking points for people to help see the world of the Therapeutic Day School a little bit different, to be open-minded to considering that if that's something that your family has been struggling with and you're trying to figure out, like, ooh, would I really want to consider a therapeutic day school? First of all, if you're thinking that, go ahead and reach out to Becca. I'll make sure that that we put the links for wherever you're watching this at. It'll be above or below the video here, so you can reach out to Becca directly if you're thinking, what is this Master IEP Coach thing? And you really want to consider becoming a Master IEP Coach or learning more, please head over to masteriepcoach.com. And Becca, I'm going to let you get back to your busy day now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for spending time with us.
Bye.